Greetings, Elder Scrolls fans. I'm Max Scovilles for Rev3 Games, and I'm here to give you my impressions of the Elder Scrolls Online, which is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's an Elder Scrolls MMORPG. Now, going into this, I will tell you, I'm not the biggest fan of MMOs. I don't have a whole lot of experience with them, but I do love the Elder Scrolls. I've always been kind of a fan of the freedom and the exploration and just the distraction and being able to lose yourself in the world of the Elder Scrolls, which is exactly something that MMOs have never done for me. There's text all over the screen and you've got like 16 things on your hotbar, and it kind of reminds you that you're in a game, whereas the Elder Scrolls, for instance, has this wonderful sense of nature and this feeling of being able to just really actually make a mark on the world you're in. Elder Scrolls Online, obviously, for the fact that it's a massive multiplayer online thing, they've had to scale down some of the visuals, but it still is a damn beautiful game. And once you kind of accept the conceit of them having to sort of deal with a totally different kind of bandwidth, I think it looks great. I was bothered by the fact that there are less little things around, like in Skyrim, for instance, you can go around like picking up baskets and buckets and pies and cheeses and stuff. I didn't see so many of those lying around, but I was also in the very early parts of the game. That's kind of a stupid nitpick, but again, one of the conceits of this being an online game. Obviously, combat is a huge part of the Elder Scrolls games, and I guess games in general, specifically real-time combat. A lot of people really, really love the fact that the combat in Elder Scrolls games makes you feel like you're actually, doing something. You're not just, spamming a button, whereas some MMOs tend to have that problem. The Elder Scrolls Online, I'm really impressed. They did a really good job making the combat feel good, feel natural. You've got left and right mouse button for kind of your attack and your block, and then you've got a 5-button hotbar, which is your number keys. The hotbar, it's going to stay at five things, 5 abilities, 5 attacks, 5 spells, whatever, until you get to level 16, and then you get a weapon swap ability, so you can swap to a different alternate hotbar, a different weapon. I think this is great because it keeps the interface clean and it reminds you that you are in this world. You're not just at this kind of command menu system, which I really liked. Specific abilities. I played as a Dragon Knight. That's one of the classes you can get. I'll come back to the classes in a second. The first ability I got was a class-specific ability which was called Fiery Reach, and it was basically like Scorpion's harpoon, but it was made out of fire, and it dealt fire damage and just pulled enemies close to me, and then I could wail on them with my sword or my mace or whatever. The second ability I got was tied to shield and one-handed combat, which was called Puncture. And while the Fiery Reach drained from mana, the Puncture obviously drained from stamina instead. And these each took up a spot on my hotbar, which it felt very streamlined. I never felt like I was, kind of alternating and spamming different attacks. It shouldn't be unfamiliar for people who are playing MMOs, but for people who are playing Elder Scrolls, I think that it feels natural and it works. Now, coming back to classes, there are 3 classes they announced. There's Templar, Sorcerer, Dragon Knight, and then I think during a Q&A session they accidentally leaked that Nightblade would be one. So yeah, there are classes in the Elder Scrolls Online, but they're not really limiting you to be cookie-cuttered and kind of painted into one corner. It defines what abilities your character is going to get, but you can still kind of level up different weapons as you choose and play the game really however the hell you want. And I think people are probably going to get really creative with that. But if they'd like a little bit more structure to how they start the game, it is there for them. One thing that I think is really, really cool that the Elder Scrolls Online is doing is the PvP approach. The entire central area of the continent of Cyrodiil, like the setting of Oblivion, that's the PvP area. So you've got Imperial City in the middle, and the Emperor hangs out there, and then the entire area around that is just the 3 factions warring against each other, which is pretty incredible. We were boasted like 100-player battles, which is kind of interesting. We saw that at E3 last year. There's just a bunch of people kind of running around. This time around, I got to see what it looks like when you've got, one faction's keep being attacked by another faction, and they're all coming at it with ballistas and battering rams, and there's guys up on the ramparts dumping boiling oil down. It's kind of crazy. The walls actually of the castles will take damage, so you're actually breaking into a keep. I mean, it's the Battle of Helm's Deep. And then on top of that, there are 3 factions, so there's sort of a kind of a political thing going on. It's like a game of Risk. You're going to actually have an interesting kind of power struggle for who's going to take control of the different areas. Now, I think one complaint that really a lot of people had after seeing the game shown off at E3 last year was that it didn't have any first person. And after seeing it this last week, it does. Well, it's not done yet. They showed us some kind of early work in progress stuff where they'd messed with the field of view and they'd added arm animations, and it looked like an Elder Scrolls game. It looked like you were you are the character. A first-person MMO fantasy game, you know, you're throwing flaming chains at people and casting spells and blocking with your shield, and it looked great. And I really wish they'd shown this off sooner, because I think it would have a lot more people's attention if they had. Finally, one big issue for a lot of people, obviously, is how is this game going to be distributed? Do they have a business model? So far, nobody knows. We don't know the answer to that. We don't know if it's going to be subscription, or if it's going to be free to play, or, you know, some other magic thing. But, you know, that's obviously going to be a defining factor for some people. I didn't have the highest expectations for this. Honestly, it looked kind of like they slapped Elder Scrolls decal onto WoW, and I think a lot of people felt that way too. After getting some hands-on time with it, I gotta say, I don't feel that way anymore. Obviously, the experience will change a whole lot when you get, you know, a bunch of people online playing, and you're not just, you know, playing at Bethesda's offices like I was, but it should be really interesting to see how this game goes moving forward. I've got 2 interviews going up on this very channel right here, and you should go check those out. I'm Max Scoville for Rev3 Games. Stay tuned.